There is lots of news tonight, so let's take a look at the top stories. The Omicron COVID variant has been detected in Australia. New South Wales Health has this evening confirmed 2 passengers who arrived in Sydney from Southern Africa on Saturday night have tested positive for the strain. Both are fully vaccinated, asymptomatic and in isolation. A third COVID positive returned traveller in the NT is awaiting results.
Speaking before that confirmation, the PM said there were too many unknowns about the variant to prompt rash decisions like a blanket border closure. International quarantine rules have already been tightened and travel blocked from several locations. Morrison remained positive that the country is well prepared.
The objective is to open safely and remain safely open. We'll get through this just like we've got through every single other one.
I'm trying not to be terrified at the moment because I don't think we know enough yet, but there's just a little simmering anxiety going on. I'm kind of swinging between, we can handle this, we've done it before, and I am so over this.
Yeah. I think everyone feels that last bit for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone feels it, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm no longer worried about my health. I'm just worried about being locked down. They could say this new variant, when you come into contact with it, your eyes immediately fall out, and I'd be like, that's fine as long as we don't go back into lockdown.
Oh, Thomas.
I think the thing, obviously, the government and the authorities are looking at all the data that's coming in from overseas. There's been a fair bit of news come out of the Netherlands. 2 flights arrived from South Africa on Friday. Of the 600 people on those 2 flights, 10% of them tested positive. Ooh. Now, the context is you've got to test negative to get on the flights. That's a really significant proportion of those numbers that were arriving in that country. They don't know yet, though, whether it is Omicron.
I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that. Can I do that? Can I bury my head in the sand just for a little bit longer, please? I've got a lot of things coming up this Christmas.
But there is also a bit of good news. We're going to talk to Jane Holton later tonight. She's been one of the leading voices in Australia throughout this whole pandemic. She says there are some positives that we can look to at this point, and we'll find out what they are later.
It's going to be a tough interview for you, Jan Fran, if you've got your head in your sand.
I'm just going to leave for that one.
I was looking at the rundown for the show and I'm like, no, that's actually a fair bit of Omicron in here. It's going to be a quiet show for old Jan Fran.
I'll head out on those bits. I'll come back after. Just let me know.
In other news, towns along the New South Wales Hunter River have been ordered to evacuate as wild weather and flooding continue to batter much of the state. Forecasters say a second storm front is on the way. A dozen rescues were made overnight from more than 300 calls for help. Authorities say many were avoidable and urge people to stay up to date with warnings.
That's unacceptable. It puts the lives of those flood rescue teams at unnecessary risk. It is also putting your own life at risk.
And since the pandemic struck, there has been a major spike in Aussie couples choosing to elope rather than having a big, fat wedding. Some in the industry estimate nearly half their clients are eloping. Many want to avoid the uncertainty of COVID restrictions, but for some, it's just a socially acceptable excuse to avoid all the fuss.
Jen, I don't know about you, but it would make a Lebanese wedding much easier if you didn't have it.
I had a cousin who was just, he was stoked with the lockdown, frankly, because he got to have this really tiny wedding, and otherwise he just wouldn't have been able to because it's,
700 of your closest relatives.
Exactly. I think he ended up having something like 100 or maybe a little bit less.
But the downside is presents.
Yes.
Less of them.
Less of them.
Yeah, right.